on in. Come and sit a little bit closer. I think
for the last 20 years or so, I've been involved in the land conservation world, working primarily with conservation land trusts. Okay, that was quick. Okay, mostly working with conservation land trusts, both in the Northwest, and then when the local Maui Coastal Land Trust got started some years back, 10, 12 years ago, I was working for the National Land Trust Organization, and they started corresponding with me, because here I was a Hawaii kid. I grew up on Oahu. I was a Hawaii kid, and the questions they had. And ultimately, they set up the Maui Coastal Land Trust. I came down as the first executive director, and we've recently morphed into the Hawaiian Islands Land Trust, which is now statewide. In that time, we protected almost 18,000 acres permanently within the state here, almost all of it in Maui County. Although it wasn't originally intended that way, virtually all the land, the great majority of the land, over 16,000 acres of that land, are farm and ranch lands. 11,000 acres of Little Palakua Ranch, 3,000 acres, the east end of Molokai Ku'uohoku Ranch, and those owners are dedicated to keep those ranches in agricultural, at least availability, forever. So when I retired last fall, something I've been thinking about for many years, and my wife is really the sort of the farmer. When I was a professor back in the East Coast, the only thing that kept me sane was a farm we had out by Annapolis, 36 acres where we raised feeder cattle. So actually my Jewish princess wife took cattle production at the university and raised feeder cattle. Some interesting pictures there. I mean, for us it was keeping farm taxes and keeping a rural feeling there. But I do have the appreciation for what people have to put up with, the challenges that you have when you are trying to farm. So what I'm going to tell you now is a concept that I kind of pulled together. We had a group meet about a couple of months ago saying, okay, good idea, stupid idea, will this work here? People were really excited about it, so we're expanding now. Advance. So the challenges are faced today, next slide. As we all know, Big Ag is on the ropes. From the many, many thousands of acres of pineapple, of cane, of other things, we're down to where, the last sugar mill in the nation is sitting out there within sight, that the acreages are shrinking, and the challenges of staying in business are huge. So what we're moving to is more and more the small farms making successful transitions. I had to put a picture of Chuck, since Chuck Bonar and Dale Bonar sat next to each other through a good part of our years at Punahou. Chuck has Ono Farms out in Kipahulu. Many of you have probably bought his produce at the farmers markets or at the swap meet. Ali'i Lavender Farm, I pulled that one off the Maui Farm Bureau, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. And I mean, in most of these cases, these folks were lucky enough to have the land, they had family lands. There were a couple of people that had a few extra dollars and were able to purchase some land. This is Oprah's farm up in Kula there. But the challenge for most all farmers is dealing with all these issues. Some of the major issues they have are challenges with invasive species. The goats, this beautiful little deer, which is just tremendously damaging, both to the farms and agriculture themselves, but also to our watersheds, which is actually where we get the water that helps do the farming. Pigs, other invasive species like fireweed, which are causing major problems since it can be a deadly plant to many hoofed animals. And of course, as anyone reads the paper knows, there's always challenges in vandalism, theft. Some of the Big Island had major problems, people coming in and just cutting thousands of papaya trees. So there's all of those kinds of challenges when you're trying to be an agriculturalist next. The biggest challenge for many, though, of course, is the price of land here. And when your average ag lands, and these are numbers that are pulled off of the realty page for the last few years here, $75,000 to $200,000 an acre. and actually there are things that are higher. Part of the challenge, of course, is because of our ag subdivision laws, because of things that can be done, you can sell your land for a lot more if you want to have someone put a gentleman's estate on it, or residences, than keeping it in farming. So to have it with good water, good arable land, the things you prefer, this base cost is a real challenge. This is just the land. Consequently, a great many of the small farmers are on lease lands. The challenge in lease lands, and there are a number of models of these around the state here, is typically they're very short-term leases. When your lease is up, if you don't renew, if you don't extend, whatever you've put into the land stays with the land. You know, whether it's irrigation systems or whatever. So as a consequence, if you're a farmer and you have, let's say, 10 acres you're working on, and your lease is up, or somebody else buys the land and you're off, how much are you going to put in that land if you are not assured that you're going to be able to use it for a long time and build some kind of an equity in the land there? This is right from the Maui County Office of Economic Development pages here. You can pull this up. The various challenges that both large and small have. In particular for small farmers, dealing with these increased safety and health regulations and the business acumen that's needed for being able to run a good, successful business. You're a great farmer, you can raise wonderful crops, but the marketing, the financial side, doing all of those is often a challenge. Many of the small farmers we have, especially when new lands are made available, are relatively recent immigrants, many from Southeast Asia. And sometimes they don't know the most current agricultural techniques that work here. The language is often a challenge. And so having the ability to get people trained, to get them to be able to work cooperatively can be a real benefit. Next. So how do we get people on the land? How do we get more family farms? Ones that can stay in families, that the kids can inherit, that it really becomes a viable, productive, financially successful venture. Next. So the vision. The vision is to follow what's effectively the affordable housing land trust model. And 6-7 years ago, the Maui Coastal Land Trust, conservation-oriented, recognized that it was mission creep if we were to take on an affordable housing site. So we helped set up the new Nahaleo Maui, which is the Affordable Housing Land Trust in Maui, which has grown like gangbusters. It's one of the most successful in the nation now. It's become a model for everybody. And I'll say a bit more about them in a minute. Next. So anyway, building the equity in a farm, having the long-term, the knowledge you will be able to be there for, it could be perpetuity depending on what you want next. Okay, so the structure of this organization, basically the farming land trust, the farming nonprofit would own the land. It would then lease out appropriate parcels to farmers or aspiring farmers, very, very long leases. These might be 55 or 99. Whatever the farmer puts on the land there, irrigation systems, infrastructure, housing, whatever, would be part of their equity that's built up. The lease would be very, very low, so that they can be assured that they're going to be able to put the money in the farm, not in all the land underneath it there, and that they'll have that indefinitely. Under this model, especially in the nonprofit system, farming would be required, and any dwellings that are on the property would have to be for farm use only. No vacation rentals, no non-agricultural uses there. And we'll get to that in a moment. Next. Okay, so I pulled together a couple of months ago this brainstorming group. And these were the various folks representing these areas, plus there were a few others there. And these, the people who were at the table were people many of you know here. These are people who are connected in the county, connected to the various areas. There are people with financial wisdom, business wisdom. I got David Fisher there for that reason. And farmers, organic farmers, conventional farmers, sort of the whole group saying, okay, here it is, what do you think? And as I said earlier, everyone said, wow, this is great, you know, let's see what we can do with this. The next slide. Presented kind of an example of what something like this might look like. There could be farms that the land trust obtains around that leases out to one farmer. It could be to multiple farmers. And so I set up a little model of what could a multiple one look like and what are some of the possibilities. So this is what I call the Maui Fresh Farm here, which I couldn't find anyone using that name. So I thought, okay, so let's say we wanted to all get together as a collaborative and really do something with it. So this could be the branding name here. This example, here's 100 acres. Could be broken up anyway into lease lands. I gave 5 to 25 acres here. The idea would be that it would be set up in a way there could be farm dwellings built. Because one of the challenges of leasing land is that in our county current statutes, you cannot build a dwelling on leased farmland. And the reason is to keep from having sprawl, to keep from having whether it's vacation rentals or non-farm uses on ag lands. So one of the hurdles will be to go get the county council to change or make an exception for this kind of a model within the county regulations. If you don't have people in land, you don't have eyes in the land. Because everyone knows the problems I mentioned earlier, whether it's deer wandering through your fields or people trashing it or theft or whatever. If you've got people there with eyes on the land, those problems go way, way, way down. And many people express this. In this particular model, I said, okay, let's suppose a group of them did want to work together. They could be branding together here. They could set up a brand. They could be marketing cooperatively. So if you're a terrific farmer, you grow the product. If you've got somebody who's really good at marketing, who's got the connections with the hotels or the farmers markets, whatever, they can worry about the marketing side while you do the expertise you have. In this particular one, I said, okay, well, let's set one of the chunks aside so we can have a farm stand there where fresh produce can be sold and a commercial kitchen. And the commercial kitchen is a tremendous advantage for many because if you want to do value-added product, jams or jellies or sauces, or even putting up honey in your jars, you need to have an approved commercial kitchen. You need to have Department of Health certificates, which includes the problem with water. And if any of you know farmers out in Kipahulu or off of county water, it's a real hassle because you've got to go through all sorts of hoops to get your water certified so that you can be utilizing these things. And so if it's a group that are pitching in, they can get a commercial kitchen, even if you're off the grid, you know, off the water systems, that can make this available, that whoever wanted to use it could use it under whatever agreement it was. What I showed here are some envelopes where they could have the farmstead, they could have the farm dwelling or farm worker ohanas if that was what was needed. You might put up your barn, your equipment sheds, and the rest of the acreage would be available for doing your agriculture and would have to be agriculture. Go next. Okay, so what are the advantages? Why this nonprofit model? Okay, in the first place, it opens up the availability of lots of farm support and housing support programs from governments, state, local, federal governments there. And those can be used for a variety of things. The land trust can use some of these grants or very inexpensive loan programs, HUD, Housing and Urban Development Programs, to be able to obtain the land so that the land trust can own it. Or it could be done with having the land trust with basically long-term permanent leases. And there are loans one can get for construction, for infrastructure. There's a rent-to-own program that's in the affordable housing thing where you can rent for 15 years, and after that you could actually, you know, take possession or you know, get your loan and finish off paying for the place. That should work fine in this model. Keep the rates low. So for people who do not have the money to be able to put into building a farm, it at least takes the cost of the land out for And when they cast the farm on the kids, they could sell the farm. But it has to be sold at what would be an affordable level, as determined by a formula that the Affordable Housing Land Trust uses there. You determine what that affordability is there. The other thing is, as has been mentioned, and I think you all know, there's tremendous political support for sustainability in Hawaii. All of our politicians, both local and state, recognize the need we have for long-term food and fuel sustainability here. So we've begun talking with a number of our legislators, all of which have expressed great interest. In fact, we're getting calls from other islands now and other folks who tell us about this. So I think it's something like getting this exemption from the statute that prohibits dwellings on farmlands, leased farmlands, that we could probably get an exemption for organizations that are doing this. What the Land Trust does, they monitor everyone, they make sure that farming is going on, there's not non-farm uses going on, and it's the one that guarantees that the model is being followed. The challenge we have within governments, for example, our county has the residential housing program, the affordable farming, and so if you're a developer and are required to put up 30% or 40% or 50% of the houses as affordable, and they're required to be kept affordable for 15 years. The trouble is nobody tracks that. And the developments that took place right up the road here, the developments that were an affordable thing, every one of those that's come to market has gone to market rate because there's no one in the county that's overseeing this. The county just doesn't have the enforcement personnel to follow up this one. That's what the Farm Trust would be doing here. Next. Okay, there's still a lot to determine. And these are the kind of things that, in particular, talking with the potential farmers, existing farmers, Vince Mina, who spoke here last time we had a meeting in December, did a great job talking about how his farm works, how these things work. Things like how much land, would a model like that 25 acres down to 5 acres be fine? Are there lots of people who say, if I could just get 2 acres, that would be perfect because especially things I do. All of that can be determined. An interesting one here is the organizational structure. We have the Affordable Housing Land Trust, as I said, it's wildly successful. John Anderson is their executive director. Apologize he couldn't be here today. Their board yesterday approved either taking this on as a project or being a fiscal sponsor for this until such a time as it might wish to set up as its own nonprofit. Makes perfect sense to me to operate under them. Don't have to go through the whole hurdles of starting a new nonprofit. John and his team there are experts in how all the funding sources work. They've got terrific relationships at state, at federal level, and so it should be a much faster process than it would be if we were starting from scratch. John and I, and actually Ted Yamamura, who's the agricultural liaison for the county, are starting to meet next week with most of our county council members just to bring them up to speed and to implant this seed of, we're going to have to come to them to talk about getting that ordinance modified. Anyway, so these are the various things that the organizing committee is going to be wrestling with. Next slide. Okay, so the implementation steps that the process is looking now, the organizational structure. We've been working in identifying some potentially available lands, including some county lands that could be made available for this. There's other county problems with doing that we have to get around, but county is really interested in this because of our sustainability challenges here. One of the things that will take a while is identifying the eligible farmers, the ones that know what they're doing, that want to do this, that there's a good chance they will become these long-term family farms. We're working with University of Hawaii Maui campus here, which has just started this fall, a new program, the New Farmers Initiative, under the Agriculture and Resources Division there. The goal of which is to take these young folks, the young students, and teach them how to be farmers, and that it's not just, oh, here's how you plant a seed, here's how you use your herbicides, but it's, here's how you do a farming business. You know, here's how you do your finances, your marketing, your investments, your, everything that's around what it takes to run a successful business. So we're in this process now. Now, I, a month and a half, 2 months ago, pulled together this group of folks saying, good idea, bad idea. Would you be willing to be involved? And every single one of them raised their hand, which is terrific. And a number of people since then have wanted to be involved. So we're going to be meeting again next Friday, February 8th, at the University of Maui, or University of Hawaii Maui campus. We have a room set aside. 2-hour meeting. I'm a great believer in short meetings to get things done. And we'll be breaking up into work groups looking at various of these issues here and getting us moving here. If any of you are interested, I did bring a sign-up sheet here, which will sit at my table here. If you want to come by, put your name and contact info down, put you in the loop there. So folks are welcome, and we'll see where we go with this. Next slide. Dave insisted that I put a canvas together here. It was good. It helped me sort of focus the ideas. I wimped out when it came down to, well, let's talk about all the costs and things here. Because, I mean, that needs to be developed. There are farms out there that families are farming now. The farmers are now getting on in age. They're not able to farm. Either they don't have any kids, or the kids are totally uninterested in staying in farming. But they would love to see the farms stay in farming there. And so there are a variety of different opportunities. Working with a nonprofit, there are great benefits to doing donations, whether it's a partial donation of land, a bargain sale, or sometimes fully donating. And so there's some of those opportunities, working with the big landowners, working with other big ranches. So we've been talking with them, and there are folks interested. Next slide. If anyone wants this, I'm happy to send it to you, but just let me know. Okay, so for those of you sitting there going, oh wow, that'd be fun to be involved in, here's some particular things that we could use. I was very pleased to see Chris and Lynn and Don talk about helping develop websites and things. So I'll take you out and bribe, and I did reserve a couple. I reserved Affordable Farming Maui and Affordable Farming Hawaii URLs there for the website name. So it's a start. Having some legal expertise that can oversee, take a look and say, good, bad, no, this doesn't fit what you lost. Community and legislative outreach, identifying that, and then financial support. Because we will need to be, raising money as a nonprofit just for some of the operations things. So that will come down the road.